According to the cloud.
All right. All right. Welcome everybody to MVP Office Hours. Today is November 15th. We're glad you're here. We meet on the first and third Friday of most months. Occasionally there's a holiday that trips us up, and so we push things around, but for the most part, it's the first and third Friday. The link that you all use to register is perpetual, so you can use that every time you want to meet with us. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find Dale, Joy, and Squire on LinkedIn. And then you can also go to mvpofficehours.info. We do have an email address that we don't recommend you use, but you can use it. But the success community is where we would prefer you to post all the goodness. And if, let's see, Squire or Dale, if you could drop in the link in the chat for the success community, because if you aren't a member of that, then you should be. And next slide. All right. Ground rules. We really want everyone to share their experiences and insights and the recommendations. And if you've got links or resources, post those up in the chat. If you've got a question, you can give us a quick little clip of it in the chat, or you raise your hand, depending on how busy we are. But also feel free to share your screen when you're talking to us about your challenges. But 100 times again and again and again, please do not share any private information or proprietary information to your company. We don't want you to get in trouble. We don't want to expose anything that you shouldn't be exposing, because we do post the recordings to YouTube. We want to have fun and be informal, keeping things professional and positive. And again, we are recording. So if you didn't hear me, we are recording. If you can't be recorded, you can turn off your microphone, turn off your camera, and you can lurk. That's cool. Or you can just say bye and you can catch the recording later. And new to this screen is we are all learning to love AI. This is written so nicely, Dale, Squire, thank you. But under no circumstances can any of this content be transcribed or recorded by an AI tool, please and thank you. Our next call is scheduled for December 6th. It's a Friday. The bit.ly/MVPOH all caps, and you can catch the recording on YouTube, and you can find links to that in the community also. David, oh goodness, what's AI? Please. Okay, community events. We have a lot going on. French Touch Dreamin' is happening in Paris. Wish I had a reason to be there, but I'm going to be somewhere else that week. Mexico Dreamin' is the same week. Kosovo Dreamin' is the week after. World Tour is coming to a city near you. I will be at World Tour Chicago. If anyone else is going to be there, you can come see me in person. I know Allison I got to see in Florida. Barb I got to see in Texas. Stuart I got to see in Minnesota. Let's see. Squire, I saw you a couple times this year. But I would love for any of you to say hello if you run into me in Chicago. And then again, we encourage everyone to join your local community group or virtual community groups, whichever fits your schedule. So next slide.
All right.
Okay, and so
these are all just our resource links, right? We haven't added anything to it.
No, we haven't added anything to it, but just a reminder, the AI Associate and AI Specialist are free through December 2025. And that's really it for now. Yeah. Okay.
And just as in case anybody didn't wake up and hear about it, so I did post the link to the success group, but there's been a pretty massive global outage. I think it happened overnight in the US side, and I think Trailblazer community is impacted by it as well. So
oh boy.
Yeah.
So you can't join the community today, but there's the link. So save that for later.
The community was fixed around 6:50 Eastern.
Yes, but they're still doing load shifting, load balancing. They're still trying to recoup things. I can't see any groups on community. So they may have fixed the issue, but it's not 100% up yet.
That's a great update.
Oops, something went wrong when I click on the link that was shared in the chat.
Yeah, that's why. That's why. So just copy that link and save it for I don't know,
it's now
tomorrow morning or something. Fantastic.
It went back down. I'm gonna tell the team. So I think it's working.
All right. So Squire, you had said that there were a couple of I saw the emails come through, but we're not gonna go back to oh, you have them. Yay.
Yep.
Okay, so is Mike T on the call? Mike. No, Mike T is
No.
not on the call.
There was a good chat going there, so it might not even be a problem anymore, but I just wanted to make sure we added it.
All right. And so since we can't get to the community to see that cool chat right now, we're gonna like skip over this and see, is Sardo on the call? Sardo is not on the
That's
call.
that's me. That's my alt. But let's come
What?
back. Let's come back to me because Sarah's got an MFA question and
Wait,
Justin has an update.
wait. Do you have an alter ego, Squire? What is happening?
So when I use the internets for like, like logins and like, Facebook and stuff, I use Sardo Noomspa from Golden Child, and I just put it in here because it made me laugh. So anyway.
All right, fantastic. We learn something new every day.
Yes.
Sarah, talk. You're up.
My question is not a question. In going to like prepare my screen for screen sharing, I was like, oh, that's where the thing is I was looking for. Never mind. I couldn't find, the thing that's like the app registration setting to like set up a third party thing. I was like, where the hell is that listed on your user details? But I just found it. So
Okay.
All right.
So Sarah is settled. Wonderful.
All right.
Thanks. Thanks all.
Justin was next, but I'm not sure what that was in context of. So maybe it was from last week.
No, this is just
Yes.
a question that I had something I'm struggling with and beating my head against the wall. So
Okay.
my admin said that I need to consider using what we call classic notes versus the lightning notes. And I have no idea that there's a difference or what the hell he's even talking about. So I don't know if anybody knows if there's a distinction or something. Or, I'm sorry, called the legacy notes versus lightning notes. I'm sorry, that's the.
So there is, but maybe before you get there, say more about what's the problem that your admin is suggesting you're going to solve with it.
So on our partner portal, we have a little notes gadget. And for some reason, the related list to show things that were entered won't, I mess with the permissions, try to get it to show, it doesn't show. So that's was his suggestion as my try to fix that.
Got it. Thank you. And I think I heard Stu starting to talk there.
Well, I was just gonna say, can I say that I don't like this idea at all?
Right. No.
Um,
Yeah.
Here's the main reason is that I spent years converting classic notes into
Mhm.
the new lightning notes and attachments. And that was well, my opinion is that was a nightmare of a process that kept getting out of sync. So if you would like to suggest your admin goes through that again, do not include me in that project. It was not fun.
Gotcha.
So
That
it is
doesn't
interesting that-
answer the question of why. Why would you want to do one or the other? That's just by doing this, you're adding legacy and technical debt into your org when you really don't have to.
Put another way, you're converting to a legacy functionality that actually was relatively tried and true while notes and files are still growing.
Classic Coke, new Coke, all the things. So Justin, is your question like,
I can chime in.
oh, David, go for it.
So yeah, so as everyone's saying, classic notes is one file, advanced notes and files are two different files. But it's actually a container file within the actual note itself. So you're asking for a world of hurt, as Stuart said, as he spent, and I've spent on many hours of data migrations, trying to match the container file with the actual file. It's a nightmare. You don't want to do that. Also, notes will be going away at some point because, as everyone said, it's legacy functionality. I don't even know if you can turn it on anymore. But yeah, and so it's not a good idea. It's not a solution.
Yeah, right. I think all new orgs, to your point, you don't have an option. You already have enhanced notes enabled and you don't have a way to turn it off, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So if your org is old enough, you might still be able to see it, but it's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I understood that, so essentially to go backward in time would be an amazing proposition of terribleness and don't do that. Basically, okay, fair enough. I'll push back and see if we can come up with a.
You gave us all an ulcer for
Yeah.
suggesting that.
I mean, I think this is a really good opportunity though to like have a conversation about why wouldn't we solve the real problem, not just go old school, right?
Exactly, yeah. If your widget is
Well,
not, if your
you don't
widget's
wanna-
not showing stuff, then your widget needs to be changed.
I was gonna say, you also may not want to invest in old school if old school is 1 foot out the door.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
Is it
wasn't
the
saying
note-
invest in old school. I was saying before we get back on yet another negative path of Salesforce isn't perfect. Let's think about sometimes you do need an escape hatch like what used to work. That's
Yep.
all.
Good
Yep.
point.
Yep.
Excellent point.
I mean,
Is
once
the-
upon a time, we did like go back to the classic version when Lightning was fresh, but this is not the same
Yeah.
same issue.
Yeah, you flip back and forth between Classic and Lightning if you're an admin doing tasks when there's an admin page that hasn't been lightninged. I mean, I do that all the time. It's not a big deal, but this is, this is not that. This is asking for a world of hurt.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate that. You might have prevented me from getting one ulcer. So thanks.
When you
Bring your
say they
admin
can't-
along next time and we'll have a big conversation about what they're trying to help you with.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
When you say they can't see the note, what do you mean they can't see it?
So I added in the related list object notes so that as they're entering them, they would show up on the view, and that's not happening. It's not even showed. So I don't know if it could still be some kind of a permissions issue, which is probably likely that we haven't got that correctly. But that's the nature of the problem.
I think one of the structural differences is that the new enhanced notes and files uses like content and content document link. And it could easily be that you don't have access to content document link.
Yeah, that's what I meant by two different, the container file and then the actual file itself.
But it could also be the fact that the related list for both was given the same name and they're choosing the wrong one.
That could also be it. Yeah, it could just literally be the wrong component on the screen. Yeah. But
Yeah,
I would guess that
that's
this is a simple thing and not a complicated thing.
All right, Justin, you've got your homework. Fantastic. All right, we are cruising through the chat, and I think Nate is next with about business process that the business is asking you to solve. A question about a business process. So Nate, do you want to walk us through your question?
Yeah, sure. Thanks everybody. So basically what happens is the lead comes in from a HubSpot form. They want the lead to auto convert to an opportunity and they want the sales user to be able to take a look at the opportunity and approve or reject it. Essentially what we're trying to solve is, we have partners that request deviated pricing. And what's happening right now is our sales team is actually managing that on behalf of our partners. So like they're putting, the opportunity into their funnel essentially. And it's a lot of work for our sales team. So what they're asking for is for, like us to basically create, like a web to lead form. The lead auto converts into an opportunity. The opportunity just goes to a new record type, that says deviated pricing. The RSM will take a look at it, approve it, reject it, and then be able to like quote off of it. So I'm just kind of curious, like, is that the right method to go about doing this, right? Like, I just, how do you solve something? Because it's kind of like going from all the way from lead, and then basically the opportunity is a stopgap, and then there's going to be an approval process, yes or no, on the opportunity, and then the salesperson will just essentially create the quote on the quote object and then send it off to the customer. But I mean, like it goes from, it passes through a multitude of objects. So I'm just kind of curious if the way that I'm thinking through this is the correct way, or if there's a simpler way to do it, or,
Can I jump in really quick just I just want to make sure that, Nate, did you intentionally use the AI? We don't want to embarrass you or record you if Zoom's doing something to your profile.
Oh yeah, no, I'm learning, I'm on the Camp Apex like thing, and that's what we do for our group too.
I didn't want to.
I can turn that off.
No, you don't have to. I wanted to make sure it was intentional. You can leave it there if you
I'm
want.
from Wisconsin, so that's the joke, right? Like
that's perfect. I just don't want you to. I didn't want you to get blasted by Zoom. So, all right. Sorry. Go ahead. Whoever was going to speak before I jumped in.
If nobody else has an answer, I have question/answer.
I do. I also have question/answer. But go ahead, David. Yeah.
I would say that the first step to solving this thing would be to wireframe it. I would make sure that it's fully documented for each step. That way you can break it into smaller components. Because you've set a lot of different functionality in your, this is what they want to do versus, are we using flows? Are we using APIs? Are we using, this or that type of thing? So I would document the crap out of it just to make sure that everyone agrees that this is the problem you're trying to solve first before you do anything.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I would also ask from the technical side of mapping it all out, why a lead would need to be auto converted to opportunity to then get to, is it approved or rejected, before we even get to the natural state of things being approved or rejected, like and. This is a lot of customization, and it feels like a lot of putting dominoes in the wrong order. So I guess my first question would be, when the sales rep is given the opportunity to approve or reject, what's the path for when they reject? Does it die?
Yeah, that wasn't, to be honest with you, that was the first thing that I pushed back on, and they said, we don't know yet. We're just more concerned about, like, we don't have a process for this at all. So I guess, like, to help kind of give a little bit of clarity as to what's going on is, like, we'll have a sales user that's working with one of our partners in their territory, and then I'll territory A, and I'll have another sales user who's working with another distributor in territory B. And essentially what's happening is we could be giving a reduction in price to distributor A and distributor B at different percentage points. So distributor A is getting like an 8% discount, and a distributor B is getting a 10% discount. Obviously distributor B wins, but we would have won regardless. And the other thing is that the distributors aren't necessarily talking with each other. So we're kind of having like a little bit of like price cannibalization going on. So we're just trying to look for a funnel so that we can kind of like get somewhat of a target of just being able to see like, oh yeah, these opportunities from these distributors look somewhat similar, and we can kind of report, you get what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's a very real problem that absolutely needs to go into what David lined out of, get your hands off the keyboard, and you got to get everybody in a whiteboard in a room. You got to like actually map out what is the process, and don't start way down here with if this distributor has an 8% discount and this one has like, no, hold on. You have stuff coming in through HubSpot. Okay, it gets its own node on the process without being hyper technical, to then say we got to get it into the Salesforce platform. Yep, we know that. Natural landing spots lead. Okay, we're still not overly technical, but then, okay, sales reps. No, really, what do you do from here? So that needs to get mapped out from the business process side of things, because again, unless something has been massively revamped on the platform in the last few years, you're looking at code to auto convert a lead with Salesforce's conversion capabilities. So you're already like going down the code path, which is a real hard one to come back from. To then get into, okay, and then we're using approvals when approvals are traditionally at the end of the process, because if it's approved, we're good to go, let's go. If it's rejected, then maybe you circle back or maybe it dies, but it's further on after all the work's already been done. And so to introduce an approvals process earlier on, again, creates more fragmented when you're then also getting into conditions that maybe aren't technical, they're data, but all that of this distributor is this, like, again, blah, 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 all that needs to first get ferreted out on a whiteboard or in Lucidchart or whatever.
On the wall behind Dale.
Right, on the wall behind me, whatever. I mean, I'll go off that space if you need it. But yeah, it starts with David, because if you go down exactly that path, you're looking at potentially a lot of customization and technical debt that you may not have to. You need to, and I know it's easier said than done. I'm saying this as a consultant, not as an admin in the trenches anymore. The hard conversations need to be had to ask why. Okay, no, really, why? And then why? Like, there are theories out there that the more times you ask why, the more the person you're asking is gonna say, oh, okay, well, maybe you're right.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so obviously there's more work on the obviously fleshing things outside. I guess my second follow-up question would just be, we're also going to be starting down the path of PRM/Experience Cloud. So like, yeah, no, I'm super stoked, because that took me like a year and a half for us to, it was a mess. We don't need to go down that road, but it was a mess. I'm very happy that I won that battle. But could I potentially create like a site on Experience Cloud that kind of gives our partners the ability to like self-select who they are from like an account and contact perspective, and have like a custom object just set up like, hey, these are the the products and the percentage that we want to discount, and here's the reason why. Like, I just need something, right? Just so the business can have traceability, because we literally don't have anything right now.
Can you? Yes. Definitely need to, again, dive in deeper into what it is that you would need to offer up, because that then will have a cost impact on what kind of licenses you have available for those partners.
Sure.
But can you? Yeah, absolutely. That's a great use case for Experience Cloud to open up your org deliberately and thoughtfully outside of just your group of Salesforce licensed users.
Cool.
So I heard you say something, and I just want to clarify. When you said they would go onto the site and they would look through accounts and contacts, what did you mean?
I meant for them to be able to like self-select their own account and their own contact record, and like a an account lookup and a contact lookup, so they can basically stamp themselves on the fact, because what we don't want to have happen is we don't want our distributors to say, oh, we need an 8% discount because of this project coming up, and then them just like backlog their stock, right? So like that's what we're trying to prevent from happening. But yeah, like I'm curious as to that's what I was thinking. And I'm admittedly a very novice when it comes to Experience Cloud. So
sure. So if you're a member of an Experience Cloud site and I'm a member of the Experience Cloud site, and we can go and look for customers, that means I have access to your entire customer base.
Got it. Okay.
That may be right. Well, there are ways.
Org-wide defaults. You got to like, this is where you got to look big picture. Everything is you're locking it down for everyone,
right,
to accomplish this, which is part of not only the license cost but the overall cost.
Yeah, it's something to think about when you go and configure this. There's loads of classic use cases for a partner portal where partners can go in and essentially maintain and cultivate their own book of business with you. Classic use case for Experience Cloud, very well-worn road, a lot of good, cool things you can do there. Huge, scary red flag for me to hear, I can look through all of your customers, all of your contacts. You're giving away a lot of the data, right? And if you have that already segmented where you're able to say to this group, whomever they are, okay, your accounts are these. Now, why don't you tell me about the activity on the accounts and customers I've already assigned to you? Way more comfortable with that from like a data perspective.
Yeah, from a like just locking down things from a security perspective, that definitely makes. So
yeah,
on the, okay, would it be easier to just use like a first name, last name email address? Like I'm just not sure how to solve it, or is it actually just like a user lookup field or an account lookup field with proper
So every user, like the user detail, the user object has natively a contact lookup. Every user you have authenticate in there will be a user running user.contact.account. And if your account base is down to private, you can, that's what gets you to restrict it using native. You don't have to customize anything for that. It's the sharing to the rest of all the users you got to deal with. But for that one, user contact account is all right there embedded together.
Okay.
Assuming it's actually populated.
I heard you
Clarify
say
this
you're a
to make it-
novice, but there's a lot to learn about that space. Don't jump to a solution until you really understand what the Experience Cloud access and intent really is. Sorry, I cut somebody off.
That's okay, really, Squire. Just to clarify, when you're setting up these partner users or distributors, whatever you're calling them, they will be, I'm assuming, be given a log in to the Experience Cloud site. That's going to be restricting them right to begin with to be in their account and have access maybe to the other contacts on their account. If you're talking about them being able to identify the customers they're working with and you want them to be able to match those, I would find other ways to do that. Like, let them type in the name and maybe a piece of information, and then you create something to be able to ensure you're talking about the right person once it gets into your processes.
Which again, then the cost comes with, you're probably looking at Apex sharing to do that. So do you have the staff or the skill set or whatever to get down that path? Because you can, if you don't have access to the record, you can't search for it. So to be able to search for it in that example, you have to have access to the record. Almost becomes a little bit of a chicken and an egg. So really need to identify what are you trying to let these partner users accomplish? Know really what are you trying to let them accomplish, so that you can set those guardrails in the right place and in the right way.
Yeah, cool.
David, you have your hand up. Did you have a comment or you have another question?
No, I was trying to be respectful and it's my turn. So I was just going to add, everyone's got great comments and everything, but I'm going to go back to my original comment. Document everything, especially, if you're new to something in Salesforce, make sure you understand the functionality that you're trying to accomplish. And the only way you do that is by documenting. I had to have a frank conversation with a customer just last week and said, do you have your business processes documented? And they go, no. It's like, okay, we can't do anything with this pro bono project until you have everything documented so we know what to do. Yeah, there's a lot of great information everyone said. But again, and it was said, partner portal is basically what it was built for, type of thing. But if you don't understand what you're trying to do with that partner portal, along with all the specifications of the permissions around, do I want this person to see this field? Do I want this person to see that field? Am I authenticating versus my own SSO versus Salesforce's SSO? There's so many factors involved in setting up a portal and setting up, what you're trying to do. It's going to cover your ass by documenting everything, because you can say, hey, this is what I document, this is the specification, and this is what I built. This is what you agreed upon. So it's just going to protect you in the long run by having everything documented, so that you can go back and reference it if people are saying, hey, why is this person having this? Well, I built it because of this, and you signed off on it. So if you don't have that, then you're hanging yourself out to dry.
It's like, yeah, I mean, I want to say this is the equivalent of like you're working your way up to driving a souped up sports car. Like you've been practicing driving, you know how to drive a stick, you know that you want like, something faster and quicker, whatever. You could drive it to the grocery store. Okay, ho hum. Don't really get everything out of it. You could drive it way too fast on the open road and wrap it around a tree. That's a problem. Or you find the right racetrack to go get it on and do what it's supposed to do. And that's where you're getting yourself to the racetrack right now. It takes some work and practice, but doing all of this documentation, doing all of this vetting out is going to get your car on the racetrack.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Doing what it's supposed to do.
Okay, so follow-up question to my previous 2 questions. What's everyone's favorite documentation tool? Since obviously like the wireframe is like the main component, right? Like I'm just curious about that then.
I would say Elements is my favorite.
Okay.
Whatever your company uses.
Yeah.
So when I joined this company, they use Confluence and Jira and draw.io. And so I, as a good employee of my company, adopt those tools and use it. Mostly I use Notepad as my main documentation tool. Because if I can't write it in Notepad, I'm not gonna be able to write it anywhere.
Like in a Notepad.
Right.
Yeah, that's what honestly, that's what I usually do. I just have tons and tons and tons of notes, and then I eventually, like put them into formal documentation. So
Yeah, I mean the correct baseline answer is exactly what Stu said, whatever your company has, but also make it yours. Everybody uses all the tools in their own ways and mostly gets re-centralized on it. Figure out what path works best for you, or use tools on the side that can then get copied over or integrated over into those tools if that's what helps you be more efficient or effective to get to the outcome that you can deliver or in the path that you're comfortable with. But yeah, baseline is what Stu said, whatever the company's paying for.
Yeah.
Because in the end, it's not your documentation, it's the company's documentation. And I think that gets lost a lot across companies is people will make it their own. And then they're like, well, what do you mean I didn't do it right? Or what do you mean I have to turn it over when I leave? Because it's not yours. None of what we do for our companies is ours. So play by their rules.
Cool.
That was great.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. The next question that we had in the chat was Michael asking about the marketing promo pop-ups. And Andrew, thank you for including that little Slack link, but it's really just a complaining. It's not a solution. It's about this pop-up message showing for everyone. I don't know of a way to turn off those pop-up messages that is coming from Salesforce. Hi, Taco. You can't have my pizza salad. I'm sorry.
I know there used to be on the homepage for some of the marketing, you could turn off the marketing pop-up, but is this one unique?
I don't know. The screen grab that Michael dropped in was about connect teams and data.
It was the foundation
The
one.
Salesforce Foundations.
Everybody should have
situation.
gotten it today. Pretty much everybody in Salesforce probably saw that today.
And so the overwhelming response to this is one team did it. And now everyone wants to be able to do it because the end users can't opt out of it. I think you can
turn it off.
You can you turn it off individually, or can you turn it off as an admin for the org?
No, you turn it off for pretty much if you go into setup, go into in-app guidance. So if you just search in the quick find guidance, then you click settings at the top, there's a checkbox for standard Salesforce in-app guidance.
Oh, I thought it used to be just a custom that you could turn off, but
I mean, I think it show all active in-app guidance created by Salesforce. That in theory should turn it off. No clue if it does.
All right, hold on a second.
I think
if you turn off the Salesforce in-app guidance, then you're going to turn off any
it's all or nothing.
Yeah, it's all or nothing. The marketing pop-ups are the marketing pop-ups. It's just like any other thing. You just got to X out of it.
Yeah, that was the problem we had with Lightning. Lightning upgrade. You could go into setup and turn off adoption assistance, but again, it's global. It's going to shut off for everybody. So if you're trying to get feedback from a series of users on, hey, how's this going? Well, you've kind of handcuffed yourself.
So yeah, so this is what you'd be looking at. Standard Salesforce in-app guidance. You would check or uncheck that.
I just want to say, you know, if you want a super nerdy science experiment or exploration project, as I know I do, don't forget the user object has like 100-ish user preference fields, all leverageable in Flow, all leverageable in Data Loader. Go play with some of those fields. You might find your answer there. Oh, wait, holy crap. I just scanned through on user permissions. It's marketing user. Let's see, disable. You got like, you know, have some fun with that too. You might find your answer there.
Yeah, it's under user engagement though. So it's all or nothing.
If you look under user interface, can you
want me to do that?
Well, I don't know, whoever's on the screen right now.
That's Joy.
User interface, does that show you anything?
What do you want to see?
Well, here is the area where like you would turn on and off the notifications for the notification banner. I'm not exactly what, but
it's
in my mind, in my mind, it'd be somewhere in here.
I mean, I think we found it. It's just you can't selectively just do
Sure, it's the last one. Yeah, it's the last.
Yeah, that's what this is. Oh, we got further.
That support can turn off to get rid of the Sales Blazor and Service Blazor guidance center, so it doesn't keep trying to send your salespeople to go look at Sales Blazor content, but you have to ask support to turn it off. It's an org setting. It's on the organization object, but you only support can turn it off for you.
All right, Michael, does that help?
Definitely.
Wait,
Thank
Andrew,
you. Appreciate it.
I think are you talking about the guidance centers for Sales Blazor?
Yeah, you can like the only way to turn those to hide them. It's a preferences to show that. They can also remove the one that there's an in-app guidance pop-up that tells them to go to the community, gives them reassuring thoughts in the bottom right corner of Salesforce. I can read a quote of one of them. They're actually pretty funny.
Well, I think
we're okay.
Control guidance center yourself.
The other question that Michael had, which I think was a more interesting one, was how do I get upper level leadership to stop hounding me? And the answer that I would give is I have entered a ticket with Salesforce support asking for them to stop doing this and to set my org so that we're not blasting all of our users with messages. That is ultimately, I think the right answer is you open up a ticket with Salesforce and then you send that ticket to your leadership saying, I've opened up a ticket with Salesforce. This was not our doing. This was theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is some credibility to be able to say, like, it's not our fault and I'm doing everything I can to fix the problem. And then hopefully they stop the pounding, right?
For sure. And then to go along with Michael's comment about not being able to get into that Slack workspace, there's an invitation in the chat. If you would like to join Salesforce Ohana Slack, you're welcome to join. There's a lot going on in there, so be careful.
They had one of the messages that says you have in
the top bar, and then it says you are capable, you are confident, and you can overcome every obstacle in your way. To like give someone reassuring thoughts, and they sent that to all orgs.
That's amazing.
I felt good about it. My day was much better after getting it.
That's amazing. So I think that that kind of wraps up all the questions that landed in the chat. Does anyone have anything that they would like to ask or talk about? And yes, I did say I was having a pizza salad. So
if not, I'd love to throw my question to the group because I just yeah. Okay, so why don't I just dive in then. So we're using HTTP callout from Flow. Worked great. We've configured our external credential and our name credential. That also works great. So here's the thing that's paining me. If you build it in a lower environment, like you probably should, you can't deploy it to prod and have it function because you have to effectively reconfigure it when it gets to prod. So you've built it in prod, maybe a framework, but not, you have to, now I'm testing in prod to make sure it works. So there's not a way that I can see in Flow to say, well, I'm in a lower environment, go to point A, and I'm in an upper environment, go to point B, and have it be fully tested like you could if you were in Apex. But I might be wrong.
And
so that's the gist of it.
There's no way to leverage custom labels, custom metadata, anything like that.
No, the best we could come up with was some sort of like we could build the flow to say, I'm in a sandbox, don't try to hit the production endpoint, which like protects us, but it doesn't ensure that when it gets to prod, it's going to go to prod, or when it's a lower environment, it's going to lower environment. Like it's a weird, like it's a testable story that you have to then reconfigure at every level, whether you push it up from a lower environment to a prod, or when you refresh down to a lower environment, you have to reconfigure it because it's named credential. So that's okay, but you haven't really done the due diligence. It's just a weird, I don't know, I'm rambling a little bit because it's been stressing me out.
I'm gonna go Dale 2011 here, intro admin question. How many levels are you trying to deploy up through to get to production?
So we have multiple levels in our dev pipeline, but the gist of this is that we're calling out to an Azure endpoint, and we have a dev endpoint, a UAT endpoint, and a production endpoint. And so our architecture team has asked us to ensure that each one of the Azure endpoints has a dev environment that's connected to it.
So the reason I was saying Dale 2011, learning as an admin, is there any way that you can like super hacky leverage the server, the instance, CS versus NA to make a decision of I'm in production or not, or even like solidify? If you're not always refreshing your sandboxes, like at least have something semi-static, but like if you know you're on CS, if you know you're on NA, like can you make decisions off that based on the running org?
So in the flow, you could have a decision step that says, if I'm at whatever, use this branch to do this HTTP callout. You can do that. Then you'd have to have a name credential and an external credential for each one of those potential endpoints. And only two of the three will work, or sorry, one of the three will work depending on what you're connecting to, if that makes sense. Like you basically build this like snarl of unnecessary diverging flows just so you can say sometimes I'm connecting, sometimes I'm not. It's such a bizarre, it feels like it should be straightforward. If you were writing this with Apex, you'd just have your connect string say, if I'm on a sandbox, what's my sandbox like credential? Go to point A or go to point B or point C. But we're using Flow, and I would have assumed that they had given us some sort of something that's better than just reconfigure it in prod now that you're done building
But
it.
you have to change your name credential anyways, because you're going to have to put your new credentials in. So at that point in your sandbox test, you're never going to clone it from production, go to sandbox and have it work because it won't have any authentication. So at that point, when you put in the authentication, you change the different URL to be your sandbox one. You put an API key in, and you can also, if you want to, put a get records to get the org, and then there's an is sandbox. You can't use the current org, like the org at the bottom in the picker. You have to do a get records if you want the is sandbox flag. Don't do is the org ID equal to, because I learned this the hard way. Every time that you copy production to a sandbox, it changes every reference to a hard-coded org ID. It flips to be the sandbox's ID. Learn that the hard way. Don't rely on that. I learned this year.
Everything you're saying is spot on with one caveat though. So you would never connect a lower environment to prod, but you have to make that external service register. So you've actually connected a lower environment to a prod in order to do what you've described and then promote it.
Right. And so I guess can you do a little bit of a mix of things that even if you're not connecting, but you need to essentially validate or authenticate, like you're not connecting, but you got to know there's a connection. So it's like your production org ID or elements of your production org are probably going to be static until you decide to stop paying for your licenses. So is that something that you could hard code in as just a reference point to say, okay, hey, I know I'm in a lower environment, but this is the password, this is the passkey, this is the the speakeasy word,
right?
To say go validate production, yes, no, cool, okay, great, and then proceed with, but I know I'm still in a lower environment, and do what you need to do, or don't do what you shouldn't do in that lower environment, but at least you passed that check, leveraging a value that is never going to change, but knowing you're in context of a sandbox. And like to Andrew's point, if it's from the organization object that yes, no, it's a sandbox or not, and that's sufficient, is that cool?
Yeah, I mean, everything you're all saying, I agree entirely. I think the piece that still rubbed me the wrong way is you should be able to build a thing that works at every level without having to crack it open at every level and reconfigure it. That's what throws me off. And if that's the answer, if it's like you just got to do it that way, it's okay. I just wasn't sure.
Can I give you some advice? 8 years of consulting.
Yeah.
Should and just are 4-letter words, and the further you throw them behind you. So
really quick, I saw a couple of posts in the chat. I just want to make sure. Michael and Nate both, we could use Apex. We don't want to write code if we don't have to. We should be able to do this with Flow. That's why it's there, right? So as soon as I'm not using Flow, it's going against my personal principles of leveraging those declarative tools, but it's a good call out, and we could written lots of them that way. So
how many releases old is HTTP callouts in Flow?
3 or 4, might be 4.
Like, I mean, I'm going to go back to my point earlier of, is Apex your stopgap? While that gets more refined and more robust, and you just evaluate it release by release, that if it looks like it's sound enough, maybe 2 releases from now, whatever, that's then when you say, okay, cool, now we can go with that approach.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I want it to work. It does work.
Yeah.
It's just such a weird, maybe I just got to get over myself. That's possible too.
It reminds me a little bit about like setting up custom domains or Experience Cloud stuff where like there's just some things that you have to redo, and it's annoying, and I shouldn't have to, but you do.
Yeah. Yep. Because at the end of the day, in a perfect world, you would only have one name credential, one external credential. It works in prod. When you refresh it down, to Andrew's point, you have to reconfigure it anyway, because when you refresh it down, there's nothing carries down, right? You've got no secret and no ID. So if you got to do it from prod down, maybe you just have to do it from lower environment up and just be okay with it.
It could be a deployment process problem too, though. Like, do you package your stuff before you deploy it? It's all in Happy Soup. So what we're finding is that a lot of things that we had in Happy Soup and try to deploy it, we can't do that anymore because there's so many differences between our environments. And the drift is getting bigger and bigger as we add more product teams. So now we're pushing things into environment config, like profiles sit in environment config, because profiles are different in every single org. There's just no way around it. And now, so we have some permission sets that now are in environment config because, like your example, they change. You can't set it up thinking, oh, whatever's in dev will go into prod. No, not through Happy Soup, not through your deployment process. So some of this is a Salesforce problem. Some of this is a CI/CD problem.
Absolutely, on the CI/CD part, even when you think you have like the process down, there's always going to be another wrinkle that you have to add to the process and whatever. And that's the nature of it, of that, I think. And you hope it doesn't cost more. It eventually will, whatever. I guess I want to go back to the thought of, if you do use Apex as a stopgap, I'm a cost versus investment person, and I look at this as potentially an investment that as time goes on, you will have already been doing the pressure testing required so that when you see Flow says, hey, we might be robust enough to handle what you're doing, you've already got all your ducks in a row to say, great, cool, can you handle this? And if your test is yes, you've already done the pressure testing, you've done the situational testing, you've done all the things to just give a Flow in a newly released, version X+1 in a sandbox. You try it, and if it comes out cool, you've done all the hard work already. You're ready to go. It sucks along the way. I hear you. I'd want it to work right now too, but you're making the investment now to earn the interest later if you go with that path.
Yep. Yeah, you're right.
Music to your ears, right? Dale?
Yeah, I
You're
mean,
right. You're
like I said, I
right.
mean, it's been bugging me, and the workaround is really straightforward, and the examples, I mean, not the example, but like the outcome makes perfect sense. It's just so weird to think about what you're deploying isn't what's going to work in prod, and you then have to do prod work that just hurts every time. So,
Can I give you another path?
oh yeah,
Another path. Do it, document it, leverage your NDA as an MVP with Salesforce to say, hey guys, I got something you might like.
To work
you
on?
might do that work for them for the greater good. Isn't that why we were so excited to become MVPs, was to help for the greater good?
That's true.
Dude, you might be onto something there.
Well, and it's funny you say that because I was starting to write a note for myself for TDX to get in line at True to the Core.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, what's that going to do other than just like, I always complain when no offense to anyone who takes the time to get in line, but I hate True to the Core when it's just a chance to bitch instead of look for an outcome. And as soon as I started writing down, I'm like, that's exactly what I don't like about True to the Core. So how do I make this actionable? And
don't bring me problems without solutions.
Right. So before I started to like vent, I was like, well, I'll ask the smartest people I know what they think. So here we are, and I'm in a good spot. So I appreciate it, everyone.
I think you have a chance to make
when you ask the smart people.
Yeah.
Nate, you got the name of the person you were looking for? Yeah, I chatted with Adam at Dreamforce this year. He's a good guy.
Yeah, Adam's great. I don't know if HTTP call out it's his thing, but
no. I pinged Diana and she hasn't responded yet. But I'm sure I'm one of 3 million equally random.
Maybe 3,000. 3 million? Come on. I'm teasing.
3 million.
And then let's see. Justin, you had asked about some tutorials.
But,
and then
wait,
go ahead, David.
Sorry, before you go into that.
Yeah.
Squire, did you go to unofficialsf.com?
Not yet.
I know for a fact that the Flow PM is very heavily invested in the website there and pushes all the beta stuff out on that.
Yeah.
So if you like ping him on the feedback, or I forget if there's another way of getting, sending information back. It'll get to the product managers. So it's another avenue for trying to, since you're not just bitching, you're trying to solve a problem.
Yeah.
At least the last product manager I talked to about Flow is very receptive to anything from unofficial SF. So
appreciate that. Good call out.
And
once I get something well worded, I'll do that. Sorry,
and
Steve,
if, and if you do speak at or ask a question at
True to the Core.
True to the Core, that either that product manager that David's talking about or another one that works with them will come up and find you after the fact, like they did with me, and said, let's talk about that question some more. And then you'll get a personal. So it's always good to stick your neck out and ask a dumb question, because you never know.
They're not dumb. They're not.
You never know who's going to listen and empathize with your problem.
Yeah.
Or they could have something cooking. You never know. So we have 3 minutes left. There was a question about the HTTP call out tutorial, and Squire, I think you answered that.
I got my answer.
Yeah.
And Justin, you got your stuff.
Yeah, just to clarify that one
Yeah.
too. The hardest part about that call out demo is that it really is as easy and make it look. the trick of it is the nuance of why you're doing it. Like it's really hard to equate what they're demonstrating to something that doesn't mean anything to you. But like once you've got a call out and you're like, oh, I have to send X to Y and I have to figure out how to authenticate and authorize, and like now I know why I'm doing those steps. So there's like this weird like see it, understand it. Like I always use the example of I've watched a million hours of This Old House. I still don't know how to frame a wall because I've never tried to do it. But when that day comes, I'm gonna do one and mess it up, and then the second one is gonna be good. So
So I got a question. One more to go back to that. Skiing down the double Black Diamond mountain when I really belong on a bunny hill with this one. Are you sure that what you're calling out to is configured and architected correctly to fit what HTTP callout is trying to do? Like, are you sure it's not a source and target problem?
no, it definitely works if it's
Okay.
configured as expected. Like the most, like I'm not even trying to oversell it. Like this is the dumbest OAuth connection I've ever seen because it's literally there's like 4 variables. It definitely calls out and does this thing. It's just when we've got 3 floating environments and 3 destination environments, and it doesn't make sense why you can't configure it better than just do it manually every time. That was really the gist of it. But a good call out.
Once you get expert at HTTP callouts in Flow, then I put a link in the chat, just like Kung Fu Panda 3, who said,
Yep.
if you do this, now do this. So actually go out and get Postman and learn how to use Postman, and then do the Salesforce API collection in Postman, and your mind will blow because it's awesome.
It is awesome. Unless your org doesn't allow you, or your company doesn't allow you.
Well,
to
okay,
Postman,
yeah,
'cause
forget
it's
about
illegal,
that
but-
because
Funny.
financial services.
I have Postman, but it never occurred to me to download the Salesforce collection. which
Oh, it's beautiful.
you just made my weekend. Thank you.
Yeah,
Do
awesome.
it, do it, do it, do it.
All right, friends, we are at the top of the hour. I appreciate you all being here. We, Squire, Dale, and I all appreciate you being here, and so do all the folks that brought questions. We'll see you in the first week of December. Is that right? December.
Yeah.
I said
3
it
weeks.
earlier. You guys
3
remember what I said.
weeks. Yep.
So after the Thanksgiving holiday, and I really want to know what everyone's favorite Thanksgiving food is then. Don't worry about it now, but thank you. Have a great weekend and stay warm, stay cozy, look for the sunshine.
Stay
See
awesome.
you guys later. Yes,
Do the
stay
best.
awesome. Bye. Bye,
Bye, all.
friends. Bye. Thanks for joining us. Bye. All the things. Good job, Squire. Good job.